In the last stream, we were working on crafting our first vacuumulator to allow us to automatically harvest all of the honeycombs from all of our beehives, which are also automatically being harvested using our new dispensers and timers. Between streams, I have gone ahead and duplicated the exact same setup that we did at the very end of the last episode, and so right now we have got 8 dispensers. All of those dispensers have an associated timer. Each one of those timers is set to a 5-tick delay, and so 4 times a second this timer emits a redstone signal, and this scraper attempts to harvest the honeycombs. All of those honeycombs are then deposited into our vacuumulator, or should I say they're all sucked up by the vacuumulator, and so they are now all currently in here. And all I've really done between streams is move all of our somewhat valuable pre-existing bees into their own hive. And for the slightly bigger hives, those being the ones on the sides, the ones in the center, I have added more than one bee type. So for example, right here, we've got iron and tin, both sharing this hive because of the fact that these tier 2 hives can hold up to 6 bees. And currently we don't really have 6 of any one type of bee. I think we're getting a little close with the gold bee. We've got, I think, maybe 4 or 5, but we have, I think, 2 or 3 iron bees, and we've only got 2 tin bees. And so even with both of those in here, we're still not filling the hive. And then the corner slots are still just for one type of bee. We have redstone here, we've got gold on the other side, and we've still got a bunch of space as well. There's nothing in here. There's cobblestone in here. I might also add diorite to here as well. And then we've got copper and nickel in here. Nothing currently in here, and nothing in over here, which is perfect because it means we have space to add more bees as we go, because there are more bees that we still want to get. We currently don't have a coal bee or a lapis bee or a steel bee. There's a bunch of bees that we're going to add going forward, and we're probably going to end up duplicating this whole setup with multiple more of these kind of apartment complexes for bees going forward. But that's not the plan for today's stream. For today's stream, I want to work on automating the processing of all of those honeycombs through our new electric centrifuge here that doesn't require us to use our hand to crank all of the honeycombs through. And I also want to work on upgrading our storage, because right now we just have these 3, or should I say maybe 4 chests, and they're all getting a little bit full, and they're all a little bit haphazard, including my inventory here, to the point where it's getting a little tricky to do all of our crafts. And so the very first thing that I think we should work on in today's stream is getting a basic, simple storage network. This is going to allow us to access all of the items in all of our inventories via the one storage request terminal. It's also going to allow us to craft using all those items as if we had them in our inventory. And so in a crafting station, we can just shift click in the recipes and it's going to pull it from wherever it is in our storage network. So to make a basic, simple storage network, we need a storage network root, we need a storage request table, and then we need some network cable and at least one link cable to connect an inventory to the system. Thankfully, most of this is not too difficult. The network cable, super easy, just stone slabs and iron. The link cable, also fairly easy, it's just network cable and a chest. The storage request table here is a little bit more pricey, requires some gold, some crafting tables, and a storage inventory. This requires more iron, more network cables, and some kind of storage drawer. And then as for the network root, this is kind of the controller at the heart of the simple storage network. This is the most expensive. It requires 4 blocks of iron, 4 network cable, and 1 cast iron ingot. Not too bad though, in the grand scheme of things. If we quickly take 4 bricks and just do 1, 2, 3, 4, that's going to get us the cast iron gear. The only thing that I think we don't have is enough iron. We've got 16 iron on us, and we do have a little bit more iron over in here, but given that we need 4 blocks or 36 ingots for the controller itself, and then more, of course, for the cable and the storage request table, it's probably going to be in our best interest to grab some of the 74 iron out of here and start that processing over in the centrifuge. One thing I'll probably also do here is maybe make another manual centrifuge. The reason I'm going to make another manual centrifuge here is, 1, it's going to allow us to double the speed at which we can make our iron, but 2, I also think that if we're going to set up automation today for processing our combs automatically, I think that 1 centrifuge just isn't going to be enough, because we're getting quite a lot of combs, and you'll see here that the centrifuge, whilst automatic, is not particularly fast. I think we're going to want at least 2, maybe even 3, 4, 5 of these to try and process all of the combs as fast as they're coming in. And so for now, making another centrifuge that we can manually crank is going to allow us to get iron faster, but in the long term, it's also going to allow us to use that centrifuge to make yet another electric centrifuge, which we can then use to automate the production of honeycomb. And a fair bit of manual iron centrifuging later. We do now have over a stack of the stuff, and so let's go ahead and grab 4 blocks of iron. I did also put yet more clay bricks over here to get more cast iron, because we did use some, of course, to make the centrifuge, and so now we should have everything to make another cast iron gear, and that should be everything for the network route just as soon as we get our first batch of network cable, and for that we just need some stone slabs. We did make some extra stone in the last stream, and so we'll take a couple of those. We'll make a couple of these. 16 for now should be fine. We can always make more in the future should we need it, and boom, that gets us a network route, which for now we'll place down maybe right about here. We can always move that in the future. And then as far as the storage request table goes, for that we need 4 storage drawers or 16 planks. Boom. We also need 4 gold, which we have, along with the storage inventory, which does require that regular storage drawer. I think right now we do have these here. I do believe we can use one of these 2x2 storage drawers, if I'm not mistaken, to make this happen. The only thing we don't have is iron nuggets, and so boom and boom, this gets us a network request table. You don't have to put this directly next to the storage network route. You could do something like this and like this if you really wanted to. You can kind of put it like that. That does work, but I find it to be a lot simpler and easier to just throw this down like so, directly connected to the network route. And now all we need is some link cable. For that, we just need a regular Minecraft chest. We'll do something like this and like this. Nice. And so the general idea here is that if you put a link cable down, connected to an inventory, and then you connect that link cable back to the network route, now inside of our storage request table, we can see all of the items inside of that chest, with the added benefit of being able to search through that chest. And more importantly than that, if we want to craft something, for example, let's say I wanted to craft some oak planks, we can just click the move items button here, and it will move all of the required items out of any chest that's connected into the crafting grid, which makes it so much easier to do crafts. We don't have to go and find the item. The system will just find it for us and put it into the crafting grid. Makes it so much easier. Now, what we can do, of course, here is we can do this and this, and that's going to connect everything up. And I usually like to have mine sorted by amount and descending. So I like to see the item that I have the most of at the top and the item that I have the least of at the bottom. You can change this to however you like. You can sort it by name, by color, whatever options they have in the GUI here. But the next problem we run into is that we're kind of getting close to filling up all of these chests. And that is where the compact storage mod comes into play, because this is going to allow us to make an upgradable chest that can hold a ton of items. So the idea here is that we can make a standard Minecraft chest, which we'll do like this. We'll get 4 of these. From there, we'll make 1 compact chest, and we'll place that down. For now, let's say right about here, and then we'll throw down a link cable so this is connected. Initially, this is just a standard chest that costs way more to make. It costs extra iron nuggets. However, down here in JEI, we can now make storage row upgrades and storage column upgrades. These are going to increase the number of columns and rows that we have inside of our compact chest here, making it much, much larger, which is going to be great for our simple storage network. And so in order to make the upgrades here, they're just iron and iron nuggets. So basically just iron all the way through. Now, the naming to this is a little confusing. The column upgrade I thought was going to add more columns to the chest, but I don't think that's the case. I think the column upgrade adds an extra row, essentially making the columns taller, whereas the row upgrade, I thought it would add an extra row. I think that adds an extra column, thus making the rows longer. And so I think the best upgrade for us initially is going to be the storage column upgrade, because that should give us, I think, an extra row, thus making the chest 33% bigger. And it does. Nice. And so initially, it's going to be in our best interest to make probably just quite a few of these column upgrades. Again, for that, we're going to need yet more iron nuggets. Let's get quite a few of these. We do really have as much iron as we like. We can get more from our bees. And so if we do something like this, and this, we now have a much larger chest. And at this point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The chest is 9 by 8, so it's a little bit wider than it is tall. Let's make 1 more of these to make it a perfect square. And at this point, both of these upgrades now do the same thing. If we were to add another column upgrade, it would make this taller. There is a limit to how tall you can go here, but I'm not actually quite sure what that limit is. But now, for example, we could add a couple of these row upgrades, and that's going to make the chest even wider. So let's make a couple of these, throw those on, boom, and boom. And now we have a much bigger chest than like a standard Minecraft double chest. And of course, we can use this via our simple storage network. Even better, by the way, if you want to put items away into your chests, you can just put them into here. So just click them and then click again up here. It will just dump them in. You can also shift left click and that will just put them into one of these chests as well. You don't really have to think about it. And then if you want to get the item back, you can just search and pull it out. Nice. And so going forward, we should just be able to kind of upgrade this chest. I'm being told by the Twitch chat that the maximum you can make this is 24 wide and 12 down, which is just massive. It's going to be gigantic. How much iron do we have? We got 6 iron left here. We do have more iron still being processed over here. Only 5, unfortunately. I'm not quite sure why that stopped. It could be that it's full of honey. It is indeed. One question I did have in the last episode was whether or not we can actually pull the honey out using a bucket. We totally can. That is actually quite useful. And from there, we can actually do the craft kind of in reverse. Up until now, we've been taking the jars and crafting them into buckets, but what we can do here is we can take the bucket and craft it into these glass bottles here. The reason that's somewhat useful is that we can then craft that into honey blocks, and those honey blocks are, of course, useful for making more of the bee glass that allows us to walk through and prevents the bees from walking through. And so we don't really need more slots here, but I do kind of want to see this chest get just a little bit bigger. So let's make a couple more of these, and let's go 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, this chest is massive. It does keep kind of pushing JEI on the right here, making it smaller and smaller, but it's going to give us just so much space to work with, which I'm very, very happy about. Either way, now that we have this set up, we can look at automating the processing of these honeycombs. So to do that, as I mentioned, we are going to need to get probably a few more centrifuges. We're also going to need to automate the production of lava, which is not going to be too difficult, actually. We do have our cobblestone generator here, and we should be able to make another cobblestone generator that we can use kind of just dedicated to the production of lava. And I think that is going to be sensible for us. Let me quickly do another one of these to get our bucket back. And what we'll do here, can I make this with iron buckets? I can. I'll make one more iron bucket. Never mind, we do not have any iron left. That is my bad. Over here, we also don't have any iron left. And again, now we are out of power here in the magmatic dynamo. So that's fine. Let me do this, this, and this. I am interested in a few things, actually. I'm interested in whether or not the jar system is able to put lava directly into a magmatic dynamo in the same way that it kind of puts lava directly into the glass jar here. I have a feeling that might work in a similar way that it's able to take water out of the sink here. If that does work, that's going to be very helpful. But so what we'll do is we will go ahead and grab another bucket. We'll get 1 bucket of lava, 1 bucket of water, and we'll use those to make another cobblestone generator. We could look at making a higher tier cobblestone generator, for example, the tier 2, tier 3, or tier 4. Those will make cobblestone faster, but I don't think we need it. I think for the most part, this is going to do the trick. And then from there, all we really need to do is kind of take this setup here and move it to wherever we want power to be generated. Now, where we want the power to be generated is going to depend largely on where we put these centrifuges. And so the next problem that we run into is how are we going to take all of the combs out of this vacuumulator and get them into multiple different centrifuges. And that is where I think we should turn to the modular routers mod. This mod is going to allow us to do a lot of pretty powerful stuff, actually. But for today, we're going to use it to distribute all of the honeycombs amongst a couple of different centrifuges. So to do this, we're going to have to make at least 1 batch of modular routers. For this, we need 4 iron bars, and 1 blank module. The blank module is fairly straightforward. It's 1 redstone dust, some gold nuggets, and 3 paper. And so right now, we do have a little bit of sugarcane in here from our seed ore mining in the last stream. We do definitely want to get more sugarcane before we start using it to make paper, just so that we always have sugarcane available to go. We could put this directly into a botany pot, I believe, but I think it's going to make more sense for us to just throw this down, because I'm assuming that we can probably run past it to make it grow faster. And so, real quick, let me grab my hatchet out of here. And if we do something like this, and like this, can I sprint to make this grow faster? The answer appears to be no, which is unfortunate. And so we might, in fact, have to get another botany pot if we do want to automate the production of this. All right, so I've made another hopper botany pot. We'll put that down, we'll put the sand in, and we'll put the sugarcane down as well. That's going to take 40 seconds to grow. And much like with the nether wart here, there's a 75% chance that we get a sugarcane from that, and we really only need one because we do have 2 here, and the 3 is going to get us, of course, everything we need to get our first bits of paper, and that is going to allow us to get our first batch of modular routers. On top of that, we're then going to want to get a module that's going to allow us to use the router, because the router on its own doesn't really do anything. It's the different modules that you can put into the router that allow it to do a bunch of different stuff. And this is really what makes modular routers so powerful, because it's so customizable with all of the different modules and upgrades that you can put into each router and then into each module. We did get a sugarcane, fantastic, and so let's do a quick one of these to get some paper, and then that should be everything for us to get our modular router just as soon as we grab some of our iron out of here. Let's see if we can't make a batch of iron bars, and then from there, can we make a blank module and 4 modular routers? We can. Nice. And so the first thing I think we'll do here is make a sender module. This is a blank module and a piston. The piston, of course, fairly easy stuff, he says, not having any of the resources required to make it. That is fine. Let's do this, this, and this. We only need 1 redstone to make this happen, and so let's get ourselves that piston. Boom, and boom. That gets us a sender module. The sender module is pretty nifty in that what it allows us to do is send items. So, for example, what we can do here is we can have our modular router down, and we can use the sender module to send items in any one of the 6 cardinal directions, like kind of north, south, east, west, up, and down, and it can do it wirelessly up to a range of 8 blocks. You can take it further, up to 16 blocks with range upgrades, but you'll see by default there it says the range is 8. And so, for example, if we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we could put a chest here, and then inside of the sender module, we can right-click, we can set the output side to the right, and then if we put that into the modular router, like this, now any items that are pumped into the modular router will get sent over into the chest. Pretty cool stuff. Now, with the sender module Mark 1, the chest does have to be in a straight line away from the router, and the path needs to be unobstructed. So if I were to throw down like the cobble gen right here, this won't work. So if I put the eggs in, it's not going to send them. Thankfully, one thing that does work here, that surprised me actually, is you can put glass in the way, because it does say in here, it says that a clear line of sight is required and that it specifies opaque blocks will prevent sending. But it's just opaque blocks that will prevent sending. So if we were to grab some clear glass and we were to throw those down like this, the clear glass doesn't prevent the modular router from sending items, which is very nice indeed. And so what we can do is we can have, for example, our vacuumulator over here pump items into the modular router. And by pump items in, I mean we could potentially just move the vacuumulator up by a few blocks and then use a hopper or an upper even, if we didn't want to move it, to pump the items into the modular router. And then we could use that modular router to send items out through the glass to our centrifuges. Now, we can take this further if we upgrade our sender module, because there is a Mark II version of the sender module. It does require an ender pearl, but this allows you to go further. The range here is 24 blocks, and it also allows you to go diagonally and through blocks. So it is a big upgrade. On top of that, we can then take it even further, and we can get a distribution module. That's this one right here. This requires 3 sender Mark II modules, and this allows us to distribute items very easily amongst multiple different inventories. And this is going to be very good for us because it's going to allow us to easily distribute all of our honeycombs between multiple centrifuges. And so to make this happen, the only thing we don't have is 1 ender pearl. We do, however, have 3 enderman DNA in this chest, and I believe we also have an extra enderman DNA in here. And on top of that, we also have this handy-dandy little box here that we can spawn endermen in and kill them to try and get ender pearls. Look at that. I wonder if you're guaranteed to get an ender pearl if you spawn an enderman using the enderman DNA, because we have gotten 1 ender pearl every time we've fought an enderman so far. Either way, once we have the 3 required pistons here, which for us is just a few more planks, boom, and boom, that should be everything to make 3 more of these sender modules, which unfortunately do not stack. And then from there, we can upgrade these to the sender Mark II modules, like so. And if we wanted to, we could then go ahead and upgrade to the distributor module. Real quick, I'll just show off this working. So what we can do now is we can grab our chest, and for example, we could move it all the way over to like here. And we could also put like a bunch of blocks in between it. If I were to do something, you know, like this and like this, I think that's going to block off what would normally be allowed to work. But I think now, if we were to go ahead and take the Mark II module, with this, you shift right click on the destination, you then put the module in here, and now if I put some items in there, you'll see those items are going to get sent over, despite the fact that it's on diagonal, and despite the fact that it's going through the cobblestone. You can also change the verticality as well. They don't have to be on the same level. They're very versatile. It's good. And so now that we have that, like I mentioned a second ago, I think, though, I do want to upgrade this one more time. I want to go for the distributor module, because with this, what we can do is we can distribute amongst multiple different outputs. And so, for example, here, let's imagine that we have a bunch of centrifuges, right? Currently, we only have the one, but we're going to make more. Let's take chests. And if we imagine these chests are our centrifuges, we can put all of them down like this, and then we can use the distributor module to select all of these chests for transfer. The range on this is 24, just like the Sender Mark II. And so now in here, if I put my cobblestone in, it's going to distribute that cobblestone evenly between all of the chests, because it uses the round robin strategy, which means it's going to send one cobblestone to each and every chest, and then it's going to swap back to the start and do the same thing again. One thing that we could probably look at upgrading, though, is the speed at which items are sent. Unfortunately, right now, the speed upgrades require blaze rods, which we don't currently have access to. However, the stack upgrades right here are fairly straightforward. It's just stone bricks, clay, and blank upgrades. The blank upgrades here, paper, lapis, and gold. How much sugarcane do we have? We got 9 sugarcane, and so we can definitely go ahead and get some more paper here. Annoyingly, that's not going to be quite enough. We need to do 1, 2, 3 more sugarcane to get 3 more paper. Then it's going to allow us to make the blank upgrade, but it's not, because we don't have a lapis B. So the lapis B, I think, is obtainable for us. To get the lapis B, we need a cinnabar B and we need an RGB B. The RGB B is probably generated with an RGB spawn. Oh, no, it's a DNA B. That is actually quite useful, because it means we can spawn in an adult bee right away, which means it's ready to breed right away, which means we should be able to get a lapis bee pretty quickly. For this, we need an RGB dye, which is 1 blue, green, and red dye. Then should be pretty straightforward, because of course for that we just need a mystical red petal, we need a mystical green petal, which we don't have, and a mystical blue petal, which we definitely do have because we used it earlier in the series for our linking tool. So let's do this, and then we're going to have to get one more floral fertilizer, and I was really hoping that that we would get a green flower there. We did not, thankfully. It shouldn't be too difficult for us to get some more floral fertilizer, and from there it shouldn't be too difficult to try and get some green dye. Alright, so it took a little bit of floral fertilizer, but we did manage to get some mystical green petals, and so now back over here we should be able to craft that green dye, and with that green dye, along with our red dye and our blue dye, we should now be able to craft the RGB dye. So let's do boom, boom, boom over here. This was the recipe we're using to get more bone meal, by the way. We used the 16 white wool to 1 bone block craft in here. The white wool is made from string. String we're getting from flax seeds. And so in here now, we should be able to make the RGB start. Once that's done, we should then be able to use the empty DNA, which we unfortunately do not have in there, but we should have in here. Actually, never mind. I think we used all of our empty DNA making unnecessary excess Enderman DNA. That's fine. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. And let's drop that into the chest over here. Cool. We'll cancel that. And then do we now have what it takes over in here to make ourselves the RGB DNA? We do. And so the next question is, what do we need in terms of the lapis bee nectar block? This requires 18 cinnabar honey block, and it also requires 2 RGB honeycomb blocks. Interesting. Okay, so I'll bookmark that. In terms of the RGB honeycomb block, this is made from RGB honeycombs. That's not how that works. We need the RGB nectar block. What do you pollinate on? You pollinate on just mystical flowers. That's actually very useful because we have a lot of mystical flowers now. And so let's go ahead and take this as soon as it's done. I'll probably go ahead and make another one of these just so we can get the honeycombs faster. As far as cinnabar honeycombs go, we actually do have 20 cinnabar honeycombs already, so we already have what it takes to make the 2 blocks for the lapis there. So it's just a case now of getting 18 RGB honeycombs, which should just be a case of taking any of our mystical flowers, putting them down in our kind of temporary bee hut over there, and combining that with our RGB bee. So for that, we need a bee jar. We can do this, and then over in here, let's drop this guy down. Let's drop down any flower, like so. And yeah, now it's just a case of trying to get 18 RGB honeycomb. I'm going to go ahead and make at least one, if not 2 or 3 more RGBs to speed this process up. And then from there, we should be able to get ourselves a lapis bee and some lapis for the stack upgrades. All right, and not too long later, we now have a few more RGB bees. I think we have 4 in total now. And we also have, more importantly, over 18 RGB honeycombs. In the time it took us to get those, I did make a few more of these centrifuges here. Let's take 2 of you, and we'll take the 2 cinnabar, and we'll also, of course, take a little bit of honey out of our electric centrifuge. Let's do a quick one of these. Pop that in here with our 2 blocks here and here. And then this is, I believe, another one of these. So we are after the lapis block. This is correct. Start and start. And then in terms of actually getting the lapis bee, this was the RGB and the cinnabar bee. That's correct. Okay. And so in terms of breeding here, we do have cinnabar bees. These are not down in the world currently. I will take 2 of these. We'll also take some cinnabar. And then the RGBs actually just require regular flowers to breed. They're kind of like standard Minecraft bees in that regard. And so I think mystical flowers might work, although we could also get some poppies or some dandelions from over here as well and try and use those. Let me give this a try though. If I put a cinnabar bee down like so, can I give you cinnabar, and can I give you just a cyan flower? I totally can. Nice. So over here, do we have our lapis block? We do. Nice. Let's go put that down in one of the corners. We are actually filling up the vacuumulator here. I just came over and had to take some honeycombs out to free up a little bit of space. Let's do this and this. It's only baby bee, but it should start producing the lapis honeycombs, and we should be able to use those lapis honeycombs to make lapis. You'll see this is full, which is not ideal, and we had quite a lot of honeycombs on the ground, which have also been picked up. For now, I've put those in the system, but we really do need to get this processing automated. So we now need to decide where in the world we're actually going to put the centrifuges. We might have to get another magmatic dynamo, or potentially look at augmenting our pre-existing dynamo to give it more power production. And we are going to lose some honey here, but I think that's kind of fine. What I might do though, actually, instead of losing the honey, is I might get us another bucket and just quickly empty this out into this jar here, just in case we need some of this honey for making more nectar blocks, which I'm almost certain we will in the not so distant future. But real quick now, we just need to take this and this. We could also do with taking these. What I might do though is I might grab our new cobblestone generator, and I might also look at getting a new auto jar and a new tempered glass jar with a new soul campfire, so that we can set up a new dedicated lava production setup for the magmatic dynamo wherever we end up putting the centrifuges. That way we don't have to take this away, and we still have the option of using this in the future to craft more DNAs, and it also means we don't have to interrupt the lava production that's also our power production anytime we want to craft said DNAs. Okay, so a little bit of time later, and we have built a new platform over here. My thought process is that we have this kind of like bee complex right here, and we're going to build more of these to house more bees. I was thinking we could build a second one of these kind of behind here, and there'd be a third one to the side, and then we could have all of the bees from all of those different complexes funnel into the center, and this platform here is where we can do our bee processing. Right now, it's just stone bricks. This is chiseled stone. The stone that I'm using in question is this one right here, stone bricks dent, and we got this down. I'll probably tweak this a little bit and at some point in the future. Right now it's a bit bland, but this is going to give us space to put down our centrifuges and get our automation cooking. Also, quick tip that I got from the Twitch chat is that if, like initially we were smelting our cobblestone into stone like this, but if you take your cobblestone and craft it into compressed cobblestone, you can then, I think it's called compressed cobble actually, but if you craft compressed cobble, for example, if you crafted a triple compressed cobble, you can then just smelt that directly into a triple compressed stone, and then you can downcraft that triple compressed stone into double compressed, and then single compressed, and then stone, and basically you can smelt a ton of cobble very quickly using that, and it requires a lot less fuel and a lot less time, which is perfect. So what I am going to do here is I'm going to throw down these 5 centrifuges. Let's do them maybe right in the middle. We'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, like that. We do want to make sure the torches go down because we don't want any mobs spawning. And then what we'll do from there is I think we'll try and line things up in such a way that we're going to have an upper above the vacuumulator. And then above that is where we're going to have our modular router. These, of course, don't have to be in line. As we showed before, the modules will work even without that. But I think it's going to look cool if we have them in a straight line. We could have done this under the platform, but I quite like being able to see all of the items kind of flying around from the modular routers to all of the different places. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go and steal the distributor module that we put on over here. We're going to take this, and we're going to, of course, use this. If I shift right-click, I have to do this to kind of... Wait, I can clear these, but I don't know how I clear these, actually. Ah, okay, we can craft it. I see, perfect. So crafting it fully clears it. Nice. And so over here, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to put this in here. And so now any items that are put in here should get sent around to here. For example, if we put the iron honeycomb in, that's going to get distributed around. Perfect. And of course, that will work. And we do have some lapis honeycomb now as well. So we can use that to get the stack upgrade. Because I think this is probably not what we want. We don't want, for example, our iron honeycomb being distributed amongst all 5. I think what we would prefer is if all of the iron honeycomb went to 1, and then the next batch came in and that went to another 1. And so that's where these stack upgrades come in. Thankfully, now that we have the lapis honeycomb, we can make that work, but I did have to take down my manual centrifuge to make this, and so for the time being, we are going to have to get this up and running before we can put the stack upgrades in. But either way, then we're going to take our sender module. The sender module is going to send to this router from a second router that we're going to put over in here. All we need to do is grab an upper, which we should be able to craft very quickly, over in here. Do we have what it takes to make one of these? We totally do. Nice. And so all we're going to do is we're going to put that upper directly above the vacuumulator, like so. And then we're going to put the modular router directly above that, like so. And then we're going to put the sender module into here. And we should see, look at that, all of the combs get sent over to our other modular router, and then those are going to get distributed amongst all of the centrifuges. Nice. I like this. I like this a lot. So next up, I have gone ahead and made another tempered jar, and I was also working on getting even more cast iron to make another auto jar as well, so that we can kind of duplicate this setup and get automatic lava up and running. Do I have what it takes to make the auto jar processor? Not quite. We need one more brick hopper. Again, bricks are being smelted over in here, and we do have, thankfully, more than 5. And so we can do a quick one of these. It looks like we're probably missing a chest here. That's also not going to be a problem. Let's do this. Oops. Let's do this, and let's do this. Fantastic. That should get us the brick hopper, which is going to get us the auto jar. We also need a soul campfire. I did make another soul sand, and so we can do that very easily. And then finally, we could probably do with some flux ducts to allow us to move power between our centrifuges, because I think we can probably power more than one centrifuge with one magmatic dynamo. We don't seem to have flux ducts here. We can distribute energy using modular routers, but I have a feeling that might not be something we can afford just yet. Although maybe not, actually. The energy output module here is just redstone, a blank module, gold, and nether quartz. Turning it into an energy distributor module, which can distribute between multiple different machines, does require another one of the distributor modules that we've just made, but I think that would be fairly easy to do. We just need one more ender pearl, so that might not be too bad, actually. Then it's just a case of getting energy into the router, which I think you can do via this energy upgrade. At that point, I think we can just put the dynamos down pointing at the router, and then the router can distribute that energy as well as distributing all of the honeycombs to all of the centrifuges. And so, I guess, real quick, let's put our earlier hypothesis to the test. And let's see if you are actually guaranteed an ender pearl from the bees that are spawned via the Enderman DNA. I think you might be. We're 3 for 3 in terms of ender pearls there, which is strongly suggesting to me that we're either incredibly lucky or you're guaranteed to get it. And so let's do 1, 2, 3, ideally 4 pistons. We'll take another stack of cobblestone here. We could put a link cable down on the cobblestone drawer there as well to give the system access to cobblestone permanently, which I think would be a sensible idea. We're also going to have to make yet more of these blank modules, which thankfully are super easy to make. 1, 2, 3, 4. That allows us to make one set of tier 2 modules. That's my bad. I forgot these don't stack, and I used 1 to make 1. That's a very wasteful way to use our ender pearls. Let's really put our theory to the test here by getting another ender pearl here. All right, so I guess we just got really lucky the first 3 times because we did not get an ender pearl. from the fourth Enderman. Here's Ender Pearl number 5. All right, well, that is probably just a way of punishing me for messing up so badly. Real quick, I'm going to go make some more Enderman DNA, and once we have our next Ender Pearl, we'll make the 4 set of Sender Module Mark IIs, and then we'll use that to make another distributor module, which we can then use to get our energy distributed. All right, so we killed like 5 or 6 more Endermen, and we got 2 more Ender Pearls from the last 2 Endermen. It took a while to get even 1, but now that we have it, we should be able to get another set of these modules. Let's make sure we put them in manually this time. I did make 1 extra Sender module, so we could do this, and from there, we should be able to make another distributor module, like this, and that should allow us in turn to make this energy distributor module just as soon as we get the energy output module. For that, we do need more redstone. Right now we have none. I did have to move the magmatic dynamo and temporarily at least place it down over right next to one of these centrifuges over here so that we can get a bit more redstone and also a bit more iron. We are going to have to work on getting 9 more redstone there, which is going to take a minute, but that should be everything that we need. We might have to check on our nether quartz. I think we have some left, but that's going to give us the energy distributor module, and that's going to allow us to just pump energy directly into the modular router. Again, we are also going to have to get the energy upgrade, this one right here. If we press I, it'll tell us that this increases a router's energy buffer capacity by 50,000 and transfer it by 1,000. So we only need 1 of these for now. You can stack them to get an even bigger buffer and to transfer even more power, but for the time being, our dynamos don't produce anywhere near 1,000 redstone flux per tick, and our centrifuges also don't use anywhere near 1,000 either. We are going to need some more nether quartz for that, 4 for this, and then we also needed a further 1 here. So we need 5 nether quartz in total. Again, we can get that using the jar and the quartz dust, and we can chisel down diorite. So I think it might also not be a terrible idea to take some of our diorite comb and use that to make more diorite. We can then grind that diorite down. I do think that you're guaranteed to get the quartz dust every time. Never mind, it is a percentage chance because we did not get the quartz dust this time, nor did we get it that time either. Okay, in that case, I feel like we might as well go with the old method of just grinding down the quartz and duplicating it that way. We do only need 5 in total. That is going to take a couple of minutes to process. We've got 1 in here, which is good, but I think that is fine. We just need to use this jar right here for quartz. All right, so we're on to the 5th and final piece of nether quartz there. So back over here, do we have what it takes to make this thing? I think we do. We've got 19 redstone dust now, so we'll make 2 blocks. We need 1 block to make the energy output module, which of course does also require another blank module. That is hopefully the last bit of redstone that we need. That gets us U, and then we can hopefully transform that into a distributor module using the distributor module that we just made. We can indeed. Nice. And then, as I mentioned a second ago, all we need then is just a standard energy upgrade. This guy right here, that does require 1 more nether quartz, but that last nether quartz is very almost done. We've got 9 seconds left. Whilst I was waiting for this, I have also begun setting up the lava production system over on the other side of the base. Speaking of which, I think if we want that to work in the way that I would like it to work, we might need some more cast iron tubes. And so real quick, let me do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll get some more cast iron cooking. While that's cooking, our nether quartz is done. And over here, I think we should now be able to take the energy module, which does require a blank upgrade. Speaking of blank upgrades, let me grab the lapis combs, which I guess I've left in one of the centrifuges over here because I don't seem to have any lapis combs. Let me also quickly check the vacuumulator. That might have some hiding out. It does indeed. And we should also probably grab a bucket of lava. Although, again, we should be able to get some over here in just a second because I think all we need to do now is drop down our new soul campfire and our new lava production system should be up and running. Over here, we've got our second cobblestone generator. Cobblestone is in here and it's connected via the piping. And then over here, we're just going to throw down the soul campfire. And then in here, we should be able to produce lava. Now, my thought process is that I'm hoping we can kind of take the magmatic dynamo that we have here. We can place it directly behind the modular router. And then I'm hoping that we can just connect it with iron tubes, and I'm hoping the jar will put the lava directly into the magmatic dynamo. Of course, we can't do that just yet because we need the lapis first. So let me do this, and let's get our first piece of lapis. That 1 piece of lapis is going to allow us to make these blank upgrades, which we can use to make both stack upgrades and energy upgrades. So we'll take this, and that's going to unlock a bunch of recipes for us. Boom, and Boom, there's our energy upgrade. And then in terms of the stack upgrade, I think we just need some stone bricks, which we should be able to do because we got a bunch of stone. Let's do a couple of these, and then let's see if we can't make a couple of these. I'm going to go with all 3, I think, for now. We do need more bricks as well if we're going to make that work, and unfortunately, we are completely out of bricks, but we can get more if we do this. That's fine. We'll come back to that in just a second. Let's go see if we can't set this all up. So I'm going to take more of this cast iron. Let's make a few more cast iron tubes here. I think one more batch of 12 should be enough. And then if we move the dynamo to the modular router, just as soon as we put in both the energy upgrade, which is this guy here, you'll see now this has an internal buffer and can store power. And then with the energy distributor module, much like with the regular distributor module, all we have to do is shift click on all of the devices we want to send power to, and then we're going to put this in here. You can put in a bunch of different modules and have the same one router do a ton of different stuff. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and put down our dynamo. The dynamos are side specific, so you want to make sure you put it down the right way, like this. And now, if there's lava in here, it should begin to send power over to here. You'll notice we've got some fluid containers with lava. Can I put those in like this? I totally can. Nice. And you look at that, it's filling up. And over here, these should also be filling up with power. Nice. Now you'll notice we're not getting enough power because it's trying to distribute the power amongst all of these, and we're not quite getting enough to do any processing. So I think the processing is kind of starting and then stopping because of the lack of power. So more power is definitely necessary. The fact the power is building up in here is interesting though, because that makes me wonder, there's no way that the 1000 RF per tick limit is being reached. Real quick though, let me do this, 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 and this, and then hopefully that's got 400 millibuckets in. How close are we to finishing our first batch here? We're not close at all because the first one got spat out. But hopefully once that's done, we should see the bucket get put in there. One thing that we've not done thus far that we probably should do, we've not looked at upgrading the heat source. Right now, unfortunately, we can't go all the way up to the highest level. But what we should be able to do is we should be able to get some more organic water, which is just seeds, I believe, over in here. If I want organic water, yeah, just seeds and water. Start. That's going to get us organic water. We can then use that organic water to get more soul sand. The reason that I want more soul sand is that I'm fairly certain that if we replace this campfire here with soul sand that we light on fire with a flint and steel, I think that's going to give us a faster heat source. Let me look at the campfire here. This campfire can be used as a high heat source. And if we look at the alternatives, you'll see the campfire is 0.5x on the efficiency, whereas the soul fire is 0.75x. And so I think it's going to be 25% faster, or I guess 50% faster than the soul campfire, but only a 25% reduction from the blue magma block, which unfortunately we can't make just yet because it requires a blaze, but it is going to be an upgrade that I think is worth doing. So let's see if we can't get some soul sand. And in 20 seconds, that should be all good and ready to set up. And then from there, it's probably just a case of either upgrading the dynamo or maybe cutting back on the number of centrifuges if the power isn't enough here. You'll see this did work. We have got more lava in there now than we had a second ago, so it is capable of just putting the lava directly into the dynamo, which is good. Okay, so it turns out that this does kind of work, but it works in a much different way than I had anticipated. So annoyingly, the upgrade here allows the router to move 1000 RF per router tick, which apparently is not to be confused with a Minecraft tick. By default, the modular router works once per second, and so essentially here, what is happening right now, there's also a second oddity. Right now, the modular router can move 1000 redstone flux per second, not per tick. We've figured out that each one of these centrifuges uses 30 redstone flux per tick. You'll see right here, this can produce 40, but because the centrifuge is only using 30, it's only producing 30. So each one of these uses 30 redstone flux per tick, which means if we want to power all 5 of them, we're going to need 4 magmatic dynamos. The next problem we run into, though, is that the energy distributor here can connect to a maximum of 8 machines, and the way that it works is it takes the maximum transfer rate of the modular router and divides it by 8, and therefore only sends about 100 redstone flux per tick, 125 to be precise, to each machine. And so if we do this, this has got 1 of 8 targets, and if we put this in, despite the fact that this is the only machine on the system, it's not going to send it the full 1000 per second, it only sends it 100 per second. We can show this off. I'm not quite sure why. For some reason, these centrifuges, they don't let me in sometimes. Let me see if I break it and replace it, if that fixes it for me. Disconnecting and reconnecting works, but this also works. So if I were to shift right click here, let me get rid of this one. Let me add this. Right now, it's got nothing in it. If we put this in here, it sends the power over, but bizarrely, it only sends 100 per second because of the fact that it's taking the max that can be done, which is 1,000, and dividing it by the number of sides. The way that we know it's dividing it by the number of sides is that if we do this is side-based, by the way. The problem I was having earlier is that you can select multiple sides of the centrifuge. So now that we've got 5 sides selected, if we put this back in, now it's sending 500 redstone flux per tick, or per second, I should say. So we need to change things up here because right now we have 2 problems. 1, we're not making enough power with our magmatic dynamo to power all of these. And 2, we're also not sending enough power to fill all these up. The solution is to make more energy upgrades. Okay, so there's been a slight change of plans because it turns out that even if we increase the energy transfer rate of the modular router here, for some unknown reason, the centrifuges have a limit where they can only receive 100 redstone flux per tick per side of the machine. And so even if we did upgrade the number of energy upgrades, like if we got more of these and allowed this to transfer more, the reason that this was only getting 100 RF at a time and not 125 RF at a time is because of that aforementioned limit. So the limit is per side, which means if you use the energy distributor to select multiple sides, you can input more than 100 RF per tick. But if you just have one side selected, no matter how many upgrades we put in here, this can only receive a maximum of 100 RF per tick. That's fine if this is going once every tick, but it's not. It's going once every second and sending a bulk amount. And so we have 2 options. Either we can make speed upgrades, which again, we can't do yet because we don't have the stuff to do it, or we could make a ton of energy distributor modules. I think neither of those are good ideas. And so for now, I'm going to wrap this up. I'm not going to use these at all. I'm going to instead put down 5 magmatic dynamos, 1 just on the back of each centrifuge. I think that's going to be the easiest way to do it. What I've gone ahead and done here is I've moved the other 3 jars that we had over there. I've moved them over here. I've set them all up with soul fire. It turns out that we can make soul sand using blocks of nether wart, and we have a ton of nether wart thanks to our botany pot. And so just like we did at the start of the pack, you can just put the nether wart block down and then convert it into soul sand using the crystal that is in the center of the platform. And so real quick, I've thrown 20 iron and 10 nickel into the smeltery, so we now have 30 invar in there. And so what we should be able to do here is we should be able to take 1 gold ingot, drop that into the smeltery. We could, of course, use the sand cast in the same way that we did previously, but it's going to take a lot of sand casts to get all of the invar that we need out. And so instead, what we're going to do, we're going to put down the wooden gear. As soon as the gold here is smelted, we're going to move it to the bottom of the smeltery, just by clicking on it like so. And then we're going to pull that over the gear here. That's going to give us a gold gear cast that we can then use repeatedly. You do lose the gear when you do that, by the way, so don't do it with an important gear. We need 4 invar gears, and that's going to take us a total of 16 invar. I think we can also pull out an invar block as well. That's going to be faster than pulling out invar ingots. Once we have all of those, I think we should be good to go. I made yet another manual centrifuge because it's still the easiest way of processing more iron and redstone, which we did need more of. But I think that once all this is done, we should be good to go. We need a total of 4 more of these redstone flux coils. We also need 4 of these invar gears. Over here, this is done. We got a block of invar. That's obviously for the extra invar needed to make the magmatic dynamo. And yeah, I think that's going to be basically everything we need. So over here, let's see if we can't start putting these together. We might need a bit more iron, if nothing else. But there's 2, there's 3, and yeah, as soon as this is done, that should be number 4. Nice. So we crunched the numbers, and with the soul fire, 4 soul jars can produce enough lava to feed 5 magmatic dynamos. And so if we get all of these down, you'll see right now the lava's kind of spewing all over the place. We might end up in a situation where this doesn't work either, which could be problematic. The reason we could end up in a situation where this might not work is simply due to the fact that, annoyingly, when the jars make lava, but the lava gets put on the ground, they then stop making lava, which is bad for business. Because if they stop making lava, that means we have to come in and press play again manually. So we could do with some kind of tank maybe as an overflow protection, but if we do get to a point where too much lava is being produced, because I think here we are making more lava than is required, so eventually it will stop working. Either way, back in here, we can put our distributor module in. That's going to start sending the combs back again. We can also put our stack upgrade in. That's going to send more than 1 at a time. And we can also, at this point, set up multiple stack upgrades as well to send more stuff at once, which I think is exactly what we want to do, because that's going to help us in terms of getting all of the honeycombs that are currently just piling up on the floor off of the floor. So, stack upgrade, can I make more of these? The answer is yes, we can make 2 more. 6, I believe, is the max, but I think that 3 for now should be better than what we currently have. Let's do something like this, and that's going to allow those to start getting distributed. And then one nifty thing that I think we can do in terms of getting stuff out of there is we can make another one of the distributor modules to pull all of the resources instead of to distribute the resources, if that makes sense. So in here, the distributor module that we made previously, this thing, I believe we can swap this into a mode that is going to allow us to pull instead of push. So to do that, we are going to have to get another batch of these. We did get that extra ender pearl earlier that we still have, and so we just need to make, I believe, I guess 4 more of these is unfortunately the situation again, and then that should allow us to make another one of these modules, and then we can pull everything together. So one distributor module later, what we should be able to do here, as an example, is we should be able to throw down another modular router. Let's say we put it down, again, just to keep it in line. We'll put it up here. It doesn't need to be in line, but I think it's going to look nicer. And then what we can do here is inside of the distributor module, if we right click, we can change this option here. Right now it's set to transfer out of router. We're going to change it to transfer into router. We're then going to select the exact same centrifuges here. And then if we put this in like so, that should begin pulling, I hope, the outputs from these centrifuges over into here, like that. Cobblestone, I think, is something that we are making, which is to be expected. And then from there, we can use our Sender Mark II module to send to this chest, like that. And that should send the stone down. Again, this is one of those situations where stack upgrades would be incredibly helpful. Getting more of these would allow us to distribute even more effectively. And in fact, real quick, let me make a bunch more of those, because I think we could do with stack upgrades in basically all of these routers to move everything much faster. All right, so 9 stack upgrades later. That's still not quite enough to fill all of the routers up, but it is going to allow us to fill up this guy, which I think is the most important, so that we can empty the centrifuges out as fast as possible. So doing that should allow these to empty out very quickly. It's going to be able to pull a full stack of items at a time, as opposed to just pulling one thing. Everything's going to collect in here. We can then add, we can add 3 here. I think it's also going to be sensible to add a full stack over there as well, so that it can move full stacks of combs over into the buffer, and then those can get distributed down and around into here. Cool. So this basically works, and we essentially do have the automation now for all of our resources. Next episode, what we'll do is we'll look at getting this connected up to probably a storage drawer system. We'll probably need to get drawers for all of these items so we can store large quantities of them, much like we're doing with the cobblestone. And then we'll also, of course, look at connecting that up to our simple storage network so that we can actually use all of that for crafting going forward. We also do need to get a tank of some persuasion, because of course right now this system will only work so long as the honey tanks are not full. As soon as the honey tanks fill up, the system unfortunately does stop working, so that is something we are going to have to fix in the next episode. But of course that is a problem for future Isaac. For now, I'm going to go ahead and ramp up this episode of Sky Bees 2 there.